Speaker Pelosi firing back at the president after his tanty at their meeting yesterday. The speaker using Trump's tanty to try to unify her caucus, arguing they should not impeach Donald Trump. And she claims now that's what he wants.
I think what really got to him was these court cases and the fact that the House Democratic caucus is not on a path to impeachment. And that's where he wants us to be.
This is Speaker Pelosi's attempt to manage what are obviously the politics of impeachment and her own caucus, because she references things that are impeachable, but also saying she's not ready to go there, not yet.
Ignoring subpoenas, obstruction of justice. Yes, these could be impeachable offenses. I do think that impeachment is a very divisive place to go in our country. And what we can get the facts to the American people through our investigation, it may take us to a place that is unavoidable in terms of impeachment or not. But we're not at that place.
Speaker saying they're not at that place. Now look at this reporting from the Washington Post, which says that Pelosi and the committee chairs are basically diffusing this tide of impeachment sentiment in their caucus. And when they met, they were worried about what was going to happen. They headed to the White House, and this update of members on the investigations and the court victories may be turning the tide back. But here's the bottom line. Even if Speaker Pelosi uses her brash, strong, bare knuckles rhetorical attacks on the president to diffuse some of this, it's clearly not all gone yet.
I didn't come to Congress to impeach a president, but, I believe we have no other choice. Our hand is being forced.
I do believe that proceedings should begin, yes.
Are you any more hopeful that impeachment proceedings are going to move forward in the near future?
I believe that they will, but it depends on what you mean by near future, but I think so.
Meanwhile, Pelosi keeping up the drumbeat of attacks and calling Donald Trump's behavior below the dignity of the office he holds.
Again, I pray for the President of the United States. I wish that his family or his administration or his staff would have an intervention for the good of the country.
Your prayer comments almost suggest you're concerned about his well-being.
I am. And the well-being of the United States of America.
Among the many observations about what is clearly a very rancorous relationship between Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi has been that he seems so thrown off by her, he'd never even given her a nickname. Well, and this may be a sad part of covering debates between the co-equal branches, between the president and the speaker, but I can report for you tonight that appears to be changing as Donald Trump, clearly upset, clearly rankled by the speaker, today responded.
She says that you want to be impeached. Do you want to be impeached?
I don't think anybody wants to be impeached. I'm an extremely stable genius. You all saw me minutes later. I was at a news conference. I was extremely calm. I was probably even more so in that room. You had the group, Crying Chuck, Crazy Nancy.
I am joined tonight by NYU law professor Melissa Murray, John Flannery, special counsel for 3 different congressional investigations and a former prosecutor, and a former Trump confidant who even worked on the infamous tweets, Sam Nunberg. What do you think of the way this is going between Nancy and Donald?
I think Nancy Pelosi's had a really good week. Those 2 court cases that came out in her favor, the fact that the Justice Department is now willing to broker with the administration on the exchange of documents, all sort of shows that her plan, at least to buy some time, has been the right one. So she's trying to diffuse the most rancorous elements of her caucus while also proceeding in a way that will keep the United States on side.
I think that she has clearly, as you say, scored some procedural victories there. And yet, John, just as people try to hold the White House accountable and say, don't only look at the words and the drama, the underlying debate here that she still has to manage are the people in her caucus and in the country who say there should be more sanction for what Mueller found on the instance of obstruction than a lecture, than a talking. John Meacham, a colleague of ours, a very careful-minded historian, he's out here with AOC and Al Green. I mean, this is a whole wide, diverse movement of experts. Take a listen to him for your analysis here on MSNBC.
Yes, sir.
It strikes me, and it's easy for me to say, I don't have to face the voters, but it strikes me that if I were a member of the House of Representatives right now, I would be inclined to proceed, at least to have hearings on impeachment.
I agree, absolutely. And it's interesting that a historian is saying that, because anybody who's read what Madison said and what the debate was in the Constitutional Convention would say that their biggest concern about the executive, if there was a single executive, that there be checks and balances. And if you have checks and balances and don't use them, then you have the monarch. And a lot of people quote Hamilton, but Hamilton believed in a monarchy. He wanted King George III without some of the corruption. And the other people, though, who spoke to the Constitution were very concerned about this. Nancy Pelosi has failed her primary mission. She has 3 horsemen who know how to do this, 3 committees, Jerry Nadler, Schiff, and Cummings. All of these people are being held back from doing what they have to do, and the time can pass us by.
Well,
right now is the ideal time.
To your point, I mean, she got reelected, so the caucus is behind her. But you mentioned the chairs. Nadler, Cummings, and Waters have all basically shown the country, Professor, that they do think it would be prudent to at least do impeachment hearings.
Exactly.
Well, Nancy Pelosi's in a tough spot, though. So, I mean, you may say that she's completely failed this week, but she's actually scored a lot of points. She's got to keep this raucous caucus in check, and she also has to show her work. They've been passing laws left and right. We're not even talking about them. We passed the Equality Act through the House last week. We passed a bill today about retirement savings. We're not even talking about them because we're concerned about this stable genius. She's trying to get people focused on what they're doing, show their work for 2020.
Which of these bills are going to come across the president's desk and be signed?
It doesn't matter.
It does matter. It does matter. That is the problem with the president.
In 2020,
right
these people are going to have to go up for re-election and show their work and show that they've been working, and no one is listening right now. She's trying to keep them on side.
70% plus of their base earlier this month wanted impeachment, and they want it because no less than the Speaker of the House said publicly yesterday he's committing a cover-up. What do you need? We all know what he's doing wrong, and the theory, and this language. If this is her language, it doesn't make sense. I, a thief, goad you into arresting me for thieving. I punch you in the mouth, goading you to punch me, and you don't punch me because I don't want to do what you want to make me do, which is fight. And we have to fight this. This is a constitutional crisis. There are things in life, in public life, that you can walk away from. This is not one of them.
No one is disputing that it's a constitutional crisis. I have said that on this show before. But she is a pragmatist, right?
Well,
so we're like, what's in the mind of Nancy Pelosi? She's a pragmatist trying to keep this caucus in the majority in 2020 and hopefully go forward and win the presidency. And that means convincing people in these purple districts that they are working for them.
And I suppose the factual predicate underneath this very interesting colloquy from 2 talented attorneys holding different views that I think reflect many of the views across the country in the spectrum right now is Speaker Pelosi is under the view that it would definitely be against the Democrats' interests to pursue impeachment. And I don't know that that has really been solved. In other words, A, is that the right decision? I've argued that's not how to make the decision. And B, is it the right political prediction about Trump when the elites of Washington haven't been so great at predicting Trump? Now, I want to play for your analysis. And by the way, Sam, I have some bad news.
Yes, sir.
We're not going to use you in this segment. We're just never going to get to you. You know when that happens on live TV? I'm kidding. We are going to get to you. But on this intramural debate, before we go to a Trump aide, take a look.
Never go to a Trump aide.
Get ready.
Take a look at the back and forth here on Pelosi and Trump. And again, the war of words, because she's clearly trying to use the words to get out from what you're calling for, which is a House floor approach to this. Take a look.
She pulled a stunt. Now, I truly believe that the president has a bag of tricks, and the White House has a bag of tricks that they save for certain occasions. I can only think that he wasn't up to the task of figuring out the difficult choices. I said one time, who's in charge here? Because you agree, and then all of a sudden, something changes. What goes on there? Who's in charge?
Does she not have a risk if she refers to his tricks, but they're politicians. In my experience, they all have methods. You want to call them tricks, methods, habits. Her method here is to keep trying to have a political battle that looks as strong as and a substitute for accountability on the Mueller report.
I think you're selling her short. I mean, I think it's a question of timing. She's not saying never impeachment. She's just saying right now, no. Like laying a case, going to court. They keep winning these
listen to her
battles.
English. Listen to what she's actually saying. She's saying you're not going to trick me into impeachment. You're not going to goad me. No matter what you do, no matter how you shut down the government, no matter how much you usurp the Congress, you're not going to goad me into impeaching you, which is the only tool we have.
The Republicans used impeachment with Bill Clinton.
It was 1999. And a Republican was elected in 2000
well, but
to the presidency, to the White House. And we can do the same thing.
Republicans lost 6 seats.
There it is.
Sam, I told you you're not in this segment.
Sam, there it is. I want my aide here. This is
this is what I'm going to do.
You have some stories.
Hold on. I get you. We're going to put a pin here. So closing in a sentence, your best argument. One.
My best argument is that you can't pretend to fight. You have to fight. Like children, you can't just talk to children and say you're going to do something. You have to do it, and we're not.
She is fighting. She's fighting using procedural methods. She hasn't ruled out impeachment entirely. Jamie Raskin's point about using impeachment as a process for an investigative tool is a good one, and I don't think she's ruled that out. I think you're selling her short. I think a lot lot of people are selling her short.
Now, turning to a different topic, I did want to say thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. I'm kidding. Turning to a different topic, I think you gave us all a lot of food for thought, both of you, and I love the colloquy and I love the respectful disagreement.
I'll see you outside.
She's so forgiving.
Then you get to the other piece of this, which is why you're here. What did we see from Donald Trump yesterday? Do you, as someone who understands him, who worked closely with him, who was in the limo with him, do you see that as Donald Trump doing his best political theater, or do you see it as him becoming unhinged?
I see it as a little of both. He's personalizing this. He's going to be constitutionally incapable of doing what Bill Clinton did so smartly in 1998, which is saying, I want to work on behalf of the American people. They want to attack me. They want to go after me. He personalizes it in terms of saying, you can't even have an investigation into me. So he has no way of really trying to get anything done on behalf of the people. And then he says, I'm not even going to try to do anything from a bipartisan point of view if you're investigating me. And one of the most accurate public polling I saw was Monmouth yesterday, which said 40 to 50% of the country on impeachment hearings, 40% support it. But around 65% want the investigations. They want the hearings.
But when you look at the president acting that way, they hold this meeting. He claims he wants to be for infrastructure.
Today was self-destruction.
Today
was more. Because when he has to start saying, I'm a stable genius, when he has to start saying, having people say, you were in the room, I didn't lose my temper, that's where that really hits him personally. And one of the things...
So do you think he was lying about saying he didn't lose his temper?
I wasn't there. I think that he probably walked in. I think that he made a point to not lose his temper in front of Pelosi and Schumer, but was probably very difficult to work with earlier in the day before he was in that room for 3 minutes. And what I also think I don't understand is I sat in a speech that he gave once in 2013 at a dinner, a Ralph Reed dinner, very quickly. And he criticized the Republican Party when he was trying to be an outsider. He criticized them saying, why are they taking impeachment off the table so quickly on Barack Obama? Do you think Bill Clinton liked being impeached? Do you think any president likes going in the history books saying they were impeached?
And doesn't that go to one of the holes with one of the holes with the Pelosi argument? I do think she's trying different things, but the notion that Donald Trump is trying to trick them into impeaching, you're saying doesn't strike you as the way he looks at this, because he understands fighting, and that is if nothing else, that is a constitutional weapon.
I was shocked he caved in the beginning on the shutdown, but the real reason that he ended up caving, I've heard from people in the White House, was he wanted to give his State of the Union in the chambers of Congress. He didn't want to give it outside, and he didn't like the fact that Pelosi wasn't going to let him. He will hate being impeached. It will be something that, this is a brander, a marketer, and he's also, once again, perhaps he can adapt, but he's not going to be able to handle this politically the way Bill Clinton did.
And you're saying impeachment is negative from a branding
I'm saying no. I'm saying for his reelection, where it's 38% want him reelected, 52% say they don't, it's not going to help the direction of the country, and it's not going to help overall thing if he was an effective president. Here's a guy who has over 50% on the economy, on foreign policy, and his ratings are in the mid-40s.
Well, I just say ditto. Consider the fact that he goes crazy when she says, you are covering up.
He called it the I word yesterday.
Yeah, the I word.
The I word.
He's the guy that said...
How often does this guy modulate his speech? Rach, final thought, because we're out of time.
It's not about tricking, it's about goading. If he is impeached, that's fodder for his base. They are ginned up. That's exactly what he wants. And then he can say forever and ever that he was the most persecuted president in American history. And that's what he wants to say. That will turn. Well, leave it, be that as it may. This will turn people, this will turn his base out to the polls in droves and get all of those other people who are on.
And ours.
Well, we need
the Democrats are screaming for this to happen now.
We need more votes in 2020. Remember, it's 46-48 between Clinton and Trump. There was 5.5% that went to third and fourth party candidates. Trump has not shown me he can get over to near 40.
Even with the Russians, he's not going to get the electoral
The best thing that happened this week for turning out the Democrats and turning out black women who mean the most in these Democratic elections is not putting Harriet Tubman on the bill. That will get black women out there. I'm going.
Well, this conversation was fascinating, and you see the heat in it, and this heat is exactly why Donald Trump, I think, is trying to find any way to turn the page on this, and why, as you did articulate so interestingly, why Speaker Pelosi is managing a lot in her caucus, because there are different risks either which way you go.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.